Ryan.
I'm Scott.
I'm Felix.
We did the restoration era fashion. What I focused on my restoration period fashion was were neckwears called cravats, and they were first introduced into Europe after the 30 Years' War, where they were worn by Croatian soldiers who fought in it, and were later adopted by the French and then spread throughout when the Croatian soldiers visited Paris, wearing an early version of the cravat, and the French liked the style, so they adapted it, leaving out their scratching material that the Croatians used, and they replaced it with linen, silk, and muslin, which were much more softer and easier to manufacture in that time period in France. The cravats, they showed how the wealth of people and how important they were in power. More people use cravats than they would if they had some sort of job to do. They would wear the cravat showing some sort of job, like farmers would use white linen, short little easy boring bow that they would wear, but more extravagant nobles would wear ones that were frilled and made out of silk and had very intricate hand woven designs into the edges of the cravats, making it more desirable and also more expensive though. The different sorts of tying for cravats, they had as the years passed, they had much more different styles to tie it, what they showed. They had ballroom, they had the American and Irish, they had Napoleon, different kinds of cravats that would show either the work or whatever they're used for. Some popular ones they were used for was weddings, fine dinners, or just any sort of occasion like working on the farm, they would wear them. Cravats were very, so after a while they got very stiff because the stocks were used mixed stiff with whalebone and cards and horsehair. Even some pig bristles were used to make them stiff, which also made them uncomfortable, but they still wore them because it was proper and it looked more fancy than just a floppy old silk cotton type cravat they would wear. And these have evolved into today, where we see them as bow ties, scarves, or any formal tie that you will see just any person wearing.
Alright, for my part of the project, I focused on the hats of the men and women of the Restoration era. And the hat that the men wore was called a treacorn hat. It was a three-brimmed hat, and it was very commonly used because when it rained, before special rain gear, the hat kept the rain out of your eyes. So this was also adopted by the military and the Navy at that time as well, and it obviously was used by pirates and for other things. The women wore a chapeau bras, which in French means arm hat, and they wore this because when they attended formal events, actually during the formal event they were not allowed to wear hats, so on their way to the event though they would wear these, but once they got to the event they had to take them off, so they were kind of like this, and then when they got there they would fold up like that, and then they would be placed on the arm, kind of like it is right there, on this, right here. Right there. So yeah, that was the hat of the hats of the Restoration era.
During the Restoration era, people had many unique hairstyles. Men shaved their heads and wore periwigs, which were basically very heavy and large wigs. The hair in the wigs consisted of many flowing curls of hair down to the shoulders. The periwig was adopted by King Charles II of England, who appreciated French style. Periwigs were worn not only to disguise baldness for men, but also to keep lice out of their hair, because they had very bad hygiene in the 17th century. Women's hairstyles were commonly hurlu-burlu, which is shown in this picture. It consisted of unevenly cut and crimped hair with two long curls over the shoulders. And another one was fontaine, which had high curls atop the head, secured by bows and ribbon. Rich women, they weave pearls sometimes into their hair, and they had more bows and ribbons, while commoners usually had more simple hairstyles and less pearls and ribbons. And eventually these hairstyles were adopted from the king's mistresses, and eventually women began wearing periwigs also. So in conclusion, men and women's popular hairstyles both reflected what the king thought was good.